Hello, listeners, and welcome back to ND 5.18. And as always, I am your host, Ender. Thank you all for following along with our MTG color breakdown series. So far, we've done black and green, and today's color is blue. So, without further ado, let's begin. And blue is represented by the island. And I know some of y'all probably wonder why do I do that, but we have new players also tuning in. So moving to the first part of blue, Logic. This is showcasing cards like Brawl, Chief of Compliant, Letter Shredder, Counterspell, Memory Deluge, Murktide Regent. Now, as Brawl states, instant sorcery spells you cast cost one less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Ledger Shredder states, Blind. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. Connive means draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Both of these showcase a card filtering, also known as looting, in blue, and both of them benefit from it. Now, there are plenty of decks out there that just play off these two main abilities already. Ledger Shredder is in some tempo decks, but it also can be a finisher in control. Brawl, Chief of Compliance, when he was in Standard, this man was a must. Izzet and Azorius. Now, in Commander, for instance, there is a guy named, I believe, Dream Crusher, right? And he trolls in Commander like 1v1s in the 40 life variation of Commander, aka EDH. Do not play this man unless you're ready for this. He is strictly Counterspell tribal. Counterspell and land destruction via Wasteland, Crucible of Worlds. So, if you know about this person, please comment that down. I'm sorry to laugh. This man's been doing this for years. For years, literally just sitting in a lobby. I'm gonna carry on. Next is Counterspell. That is the one spell that everyone knows from blue. Counterspell. And it sums up so many different archetypes of it. You can find Counterspell in every deck that includes blue. Every deck. Now, Memory Delusion, on the other hand, is a new take on Fact or Fiction, as well as just 4 mana instant spells that give you card filtering, give you card draw. Memory Delusion in particular lets you have 2 shots at it, and this gives it so much versatility. Now, there's still some spells out there that can rival Memory Deluge, but it all depends on what type of card draw you're looking for in blue. Then we move to Murktide Regent. When this card showed up, Murktide Regent was part of the deck that ran Modern. Alright, and yes, it is a Modern Horizon card. This dude right here, with his flying ability, he could come in as a 8/8 or higher with the Delve cost, which lets you exile a card in your graveyard to discount the price of it, except for the 2 blue pips. It also reads Murktide Regent with flying, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each instant and sorcery card exiled with it. Whenever an instant or sorcery card leaves your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on Murktide Regent. Now, most people don't even pay attention to that second part because, it's already came in giant. But if your opponent thinks to have a big brain play and tries to exile your graveyard, that will also grow this thing. It is a great finisher in blue decks of all types as well. And blue Logic side is summed up in knowledge is power. It is a known part of the game that the more cards you see as you play each game, the higher your chance of winning that game. And now, let's move on to technology, the second aspect of blue. Now this is showcasing cards like Fae of Wishes, Treasure Cruise, and the Vizier of Sand / Hidden Stirrings Lotus Field combo. Now, let's start with the first card, Fae of Wishes. 2 mana, 1 of any color, 1 blue. Stats are flying, and it's 1/4. His secondary activated ability is 1 of any color and a blue. Discard 2 cards, return Fae of Wishes to its owner's hand. Now, all in all, it's not a bad card, but it's known for its adventure side, called Granted. And that reads, you may choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game. That means specifically from your sideboard. The 15 card number might help you a better matchup group, right? He said reveal it and put it into your hand. Now, this is a combo card. They use Granted to go get the best card for each situation, put it into their hand, okay? And then Fae of Wishes can still be played from the exile zone, which is where cards with adventure go after you play them. So, all in all, really solid card. It sees a lot of play in the Hidden Stirrings deck, right? As well as just combo decks in general in Pioneer. As you see, a lot of pieces here all facilitate combos, which is basically what technology is in Magic the Gathering. Now, move on to the next card, Treasure Cruise. It has that delve mechanic, and for those of you paying attention, Murktide Regent also had it. But to reiterate, delve means each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless mana. Alright? Treasure Cruise states draw 3 cards. It's an 8 mana sorcery that honestly gets played for 1 majority of the time. No, you have to really messed up to have to pay more than 1. And just like that, it refills your hand, like close if not all the way. Honestly, there's not really that much to say about it. It does what it says. It's really good at it too. Majority of the technology aspect of blue is card filtering. Draw. Get to all the pieces you need, combo off, win the game. And no better example of this is number 3, the Vizier Strings Lotus Field combo. Now let's get into it. Now, the first card, Vizier of Tumbling Sands. 3 mana creature, 1/3. Says tap it, untap another target permanent. That permanent can be a land. You can cycle this card for 1 of any color and blue. Pay those 2, discard this card, draw a card. That's what cycling does. Also, another line of text states when you cycle Vizier of Tumbling Sands, untap target permanent. Okay, pay attention to that. Then there's Hidden Stirrings, which states you may tap or untap target permanent, which can be a land again. Then you may tap or untap another target permanent. I hope you're starting to see where this goes. It has Cipher on it, which states that you may exile this spell card and code it on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So then there's Lotus Field, a land with hexproof. Lotus Field enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice 2 lands, and you can tap Lotus Field to make 3 mana of any 1 color. Okay, and those 3 cards plus Fae of Wishes all together make up the Hidden Stirrings combo. Now you may be wondering, how exactly does this work? Using Vizier of Tumbling Sands and Hidden Stirrings to keep untapping Lotus Field, right? Giving 3 mana each time you do tap it. So the whole point of the deck is generate up to like 18 mana, right? And using that mana, you cast the Granite side of Fae of Wishes to go find a card called Omniscience, which states you can play any card in your hand for free. And from there, it just combos into another Fae of Wishes Granted side to go get a card from your sideboard. And there you go. You get a Planeswalker named Jace Wielder of Mysteries and another card called, I believe, Dig Through Time to draw your entire library. And Jace Wielder of Mysteries states, if you would draw a card and you do not have any more cards to draw, you win the game. That's combo right there. I say all this to try to stress that the technology aspect of blue, it just combo city. Blue's really good at it. It's very efficient at it. You can do it by itself. You can do it with artifacts energies. It's a good supplementary color in other decks. And that's the technology side of blue. Okay, now let's move on to the blue planeswalker, Jace Bellarmine. Now this particular one, Jace the Mind Sculptor, isn't part of the Pioneer combo, but this was a boogeyman in Modern for years. Before it was banned, unbanned, price dropped, pop. It got power crept out. So now this is just a really good blue planeswalker that honestly doesn't really see as much play as it used to. Now, I believe that this showcases both sides of blue very well. And by that I mean you will find a version of Jace that fits any style of blue deck that you want to play, be it the niche mill, tempo, combo, or control. There are many different versions of Jace that can fit nicely into any of those types of decks. Now, and then following the green planeswalkers that we showcased in the last video, Jace also had a retcon. Originally, Jace was trained in mind magic by a Sphinx on its own world, right? And that's when his planeswalker spark ignited. Now his teacher, the Sphinx, and his father knew about it, right? But they didn't think Jace was ready for it. So they mentally erased it. And every time it happened again, they just erased it again, right? Now Jace, as he learned and got stronger, he realized something was wrong, right? So he broke through the little barrier they had in his mind, figured it out, and he let that kind of aggression and like betrayal build in him till eventually he lashed out at his teacher, pretty much lobotomized the Sphinx, and then went on the run. That's right, he destroyed his teacher's mind because his teacher didn't think he was ready, so he didn't want to even leave him with that burden of knowledge. Following that, Jace became the pretty much main character of the Magic story for years, right? Even up to this point, he's still the most well-known blue planeswalker. Now, this is just a teaser. If you want to learn more about him, feel free to look him up. The lore is amazing, even though they fall off every now and then. And last thing we know about Jace is he got quote unquote completed, pretty much mutated with cybernetics and oil by a big like universe ending threat known as the Phyrexians. And Jace vanished. He was sent to the mission before they were defeated, and no one knows his whereabouts now. Now we move on to the reputation of the Blue Mage. Them and their love for no. That I remember back in when I was in college, I helped a player who never used blue before make a mono blue deck, and the entire deck was just counter spells. And they've only gotten stronger. Take for instance, Force of Negation. Yes, there was Force of Will, which was just like this, except it exiled a card from your hand and took one life. Force of Negation states, if it's not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay its spell's mana cost, and then counter target non-creature spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Beautiful. Sums up no. You feel me? Then there's Fierce Guardianship, the commander blue counter spell. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost, counter target non-creature spell. And then there's Spell Pierce, the tempo counter spell of choice. Now, you all may be thinking, oh, all three of them say non-creature, right? That's good. Creature-based strategies, they can keep going. I don't know about that now, people. Bear in mind, There are lots of things to compare blue with that'll handle the creature side of things. And all those non-creature like techs, they matter when it comes against combos, against planeswalkers, against another control deck. People think, oh, he shields down, I can go for it. No, you cannot, because these are free. Then the second part of the reputation is tempo and controller. All they can do. That is not true. It's true majority of the time. Not all the time though. Take for instance, Delver of Secrets. This card right here has been a mainstay in so many formats for years. Delver of Secret reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If an instant or sorcery card is revealed this way, transform Delver of Secrets, who is a 1/1, into a 3/2 with flying. Turn 2, you can be Smack Smite for 3. Makes you feel like red, huh? And the whole deck, like with Delver of Secrets, is based around protecting it, so you can just keep on chipping in, chipping in, chipping in. And the ways to protect it have only gotten better. The ways to like pump it to make it hit harder have only gotten better. It's just, that's what tempo is. Then there's the reputation of blue as being the second strongest color, and for years it was the strongest. Back when spells mattered more than creatures, blue was the top, the cream of the crop. Alright, and then green showed up, got the power increase, saying no, we run stuff now, and it's looking like black is now coming for the crown. The final part of the reputation for blue is it is the most hated color. It has been the most hated color for a long time. And black is starting to get up there as well, but I would still say blue holds the crown on that. And Shark Typhoon is one way to control decks, like how they were win con, stating whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a XX blue shark creature token with flying, Sharknado, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Or you can cycle it, as I pointed out on another card in this video. Cycling is X, one color is one blue, discard the card, draw a card. The special thing about Shark Typhoon cycling is whenever you cycle Shark Typhoon, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying. Yeah, cycle this thing, you can make 5/5, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, you know, you win the game. And the other annoying part of blue is that extra turns with Time Warp right there. And it can get degenerate. They just keep on repeating the cycle, repeating it until they win the game. Now, things to remember. As a blue mage, you must still have win conditions. Some people won't concede. I had to learn this the hard way. I am not a primary blue mage, but it is my secondary color. And I had to learn that my play groups didn't respect that prison was a valid strategy, that I no longer had to do anything because they were done. They would much rather sit there, keep drawing cards until they say, I'm gonna find a way out of it like that. It makes for a very unfun state. But you know, as a prison player, the taboo, they say, oh, it's because of my play style. But I'm like, no, if you just concede, that is only condition. So I had to change how I played the game and add more win conditions into my decks. Okay? Number 2, don't waste your counters on everything. I mentioned before how I made a blue deck for someone and it just was all counter spells. People just bait your spells out. They bait them out like that until they can play their actual win condition or tempo or card advantage like generator. And then they just get too much value that your counter spells don't matter anymore. Number 3, your removal package has been bounce and tap based, but as you will see to the right, new options are here. And number 4, you are not just controlling tempo. And I have 2 cards here that will show you what you could be. Now, First card, Curse of the Swan. It's a board wipe for blue, right? Yeah. Exile X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, this controller creates a 2/2 green board creature token. Beautiful. It can hit indestructible and true hexproof, and those type of abilities still stop it. But this is an easy way to beat tribal synergies and just protect yourself against multiple threats. X and 2 blue. Then there's Raven form. This was blue's way of getting into artifact removal. They have this, Resculpt, and a third card that escapes my mind right now. It states exile target artifact or creature. This controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying, and you can foretell it for 2 and pay 1 blue later on. I don't know about you all, but that sounds like a great card to me. You know, their commander, like, oh my goodness, I'm mono blue. I need to be able to get something out of the way permanently. They built up something like a Voltron. Raven form. It works. Yeah, I'll give them a bird. Doesn't bother me. I would much rather get hit for 1 than by the 230 that they had available. Now this is one of the newer options that we have called Asinine Antics. And you may cast Asinine Antics as though it had flash if you pay 2 more, so pay it for 6. For each creature your opponents control, create a cursed roll token attached to that creature. If you control another roll on it, put that one into the graveyard. An enchanted creature is a 1/1. Doesn't target anything, which means yes, even Emrakul. Do it to everybody, blanket. Now I move over to a few more commander things. In wrong turn, target opponent gains control of target creature. Yes, you took someone's commander and you gave him someone else. And there you go. And open, there is no time restriction. So that's just the other person's card now until that commander gets removed. Also, it takes them out of combat. So if you're gonna get taken out by, like, you take the biggest thing they got, give it to someone else. Hopefully someone you made a deal with. Now we move on to Cannot Keep Inspiration. Until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are instants, sorceries, and or have an adventure. And they said blue didn't have mass pump. There you go. And then finally, Jace's Eraser. That is Popper. It's good in Turbo Fog and Modern as well. That's the Popper variant. It's really good in Commander as well. It states whenever you draw a card, you may have target player put the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. I honestly want to see this card come back in like Pioneer or Modern as well, but Pipe Dream. And there you go. Those are the things to remember. Now, it's time for risk assessment. The strengths. The primary color that affects the stack, letting them say no. We know that. The only color with pure card draw, giving it utility and card advantage. Pretty good strength right there. Natural artifact synergies help supplement bad matchups. Example, Etherflux Reservoir, which states, for each spell you cast each turn, you gain 1 life. You can pay 50 life to deal 50 damage to somebody. That right there. There are lots of blue spells that let you go get artifacts or get things that help build towards that Etherflux Reservoir combo kill. It works. Now the weaknesses. Its weakness was a permanent removal, but as I showed you in the last slide, it now has exile plus effects. It was notoriously known for slow starts, but then there's an entire mono blue tempo deck, which is all about starting fast and slowly chipping away. So that's not really a weakness anymore. But this remains true. 1 for 1 is no longer valid in this era, where things like Omnav, things like Oro, Crux, like everything has enter the battlefield effects. Everything draws you a card. Everything gains you a life. Everything does like everything. So one for wanting somebody no longer really matters. And that's honestly the real weakness for blue now. Okay, everybody. And now it's time for notable tribes. And these are the tribes I feel have some of the best support without crossing over to other colors. Number one, merfolk. And say it with me, people. They have lords. They also have evasion, tribal synergies, and card draw. Mono blue merfolk is an actual competitive deck in modern. Maybe you may have to splash to a second color for Pioneer, but honestly, mono blue merfolk still works. They actually have decent power. Number two, Sphinxes. They are kind of difficult to build, not gonna lie. That they give you access to card draw, card filtering, blind, and come on, man, it's a Sphinx. That's just cool. Then there's the Kraken. Once again, another cool thing, but it also shows you that creatures matter in a Kraken deck. They have evasion, uniqueness, once again, token generation, and they're just big power. Just imagine your opponent just being dragged down to the depths of the sea with no way to get to the top. And that's the flavor. Finally, there's spirits. And say it with me, they have lords and evasion, lockdown effects, like they come in, they tap something or something can't block. Then you also have tempo. Spirits is also a competitive deck in modern, and I believe there is a build of it in Pioneer as well. And the version of it in Standard are soldiers. But there you go. Those are the notable tribes. Okay, people. Tips and advice. Blue has pseudo ramp, as shown in cards like Baral, Chief of Compliance, as shown in some slides prior. They need proactive starts because off the back foot, like it doesn't really work out for them. You have to make conscious decisions at which points to disrupt your opponent's decisions. And the state of this game has become everything must be countered in the majority of formats. Those are the tips. And now I'm going to showcase some cards that may help you blue mages out there. Number one, life tap. 2 blue. Whenever any force target opponent controls become tapped, gain 1 life. Really good against the mono green and the green value decks out there. Then it's overburden. Whenever a player puts a creature card into play, that player returns a land he or she controls to its owner's hand. Good against those aggro decks. Or flux. Each other enchantment gains during your upkeep, pay 2 or sacrifice this enchantment. Hates on those enchantress decks. This card, Stern Scolding, it can actually get grief, so it should be seeing more play in modern, but no one's really using it yet. But I hope this video helps spotlight it. It states, counter target creature spell with power or toughness 2 or less. Grief is a 3/2, and this spell costs 1 blue mana, and it's an instant. There will always be Brazen Borrower, which is really good for tempo, with Petty Theft stating return target non-land permanent and opponent controls to his or her hand. Then there's also a 3 mana 3/1 with flying and flash. It can block things with flying, but it can't really block it. Then there's Chill, which states red spells cost 2 more to play. I love cards like this that just hate on a certain color, right? And it's up to that person to remove it. It's not my job to let you win. So you have to have ways to beat things that will stop you from winning. And those are the tips and advice. Thank you, listeners, for reaching the end of the video. And I hope you all learned something. And if you didn't, hope you enjoyed it. This has been the 3rd installment of MTG Color Breakdown. The next color will either be red or white. I'm not sure just yet. I just want to say I appreciate all the support for the series, for my content in general. And as always, live your best life and be well. This is your host, Ender, signing off. Goodbye, everybody.